Welcome back to the deep dive. So much of what we accept as common knowledge in medicine,
Mm,
especially when it comes to routine prevention,
yeah,
it's all based on these decades-old data models,
it
right?
is. And today we're looking at research that really fundamentally challenges one of those core assumptions.
And that assumption is that breast cancer is, well, overwhelmingly a disease of postmenopausal women.
Exactly. And that because of that, mandatory screening should wait until you're in your 40s or even your 50s.
Okay, let's unpack this.
It's such a necessary deep dive. The data we're looking at today was presented at the Radiological Society of North America's annual meeting,
Right.
and it suggests the risk profile for women under 50 has been significantly, and I mean persistently, underestimated.
Our source material is this massive 11-year review of cases. It's a retrospective look at data from, 2014 to 2024?
That's right, from 7 outpatient centers in the New York region.
And the mission for our deep dive today is, well, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to analyze findings that show breast cancer in women under 50 is just far more common
And disturbingly, often more aggressive.
than we previously thought.
Mhm.
And this evidence, it directly challenges those established age cutoffs that, millions of women rely on.
When you look at the total landscape of diagnoses over that decade, the numbers they're jarring.
Okay.
The research team, led by Dr. Stamasha Destunis, found that between 20 and 24% of all breast cancers they detected,
All of them.
all of them, they occurred in women between the ages of 18 and 49.
Hold on, let's sit with that number for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about roughly 1/4 of all breast cancer diagnoses
Mm-hmm.
happening in a demographic that current guidelines largely categorize as average risk or low risk even.
It completely upends the standard mental model most people have about this disease. It just does. For years, the general perception, and definitely the policy, has treated the jump from age 49 to 50 as this huge seismic shift in risk.
Right.
This data shows the risk is substantial, and it's established well before that benchmark. It makes the argument that age alone is it's too crude a measure.
So let's dive deeper into the specifics.
Yeah.
They looked at this group, women 18 to 49.
They documented a total of 1,799 cancers
Wow.
found in 12,290 women, all in that younger age bracket.
And the average age of diagnosis was
Surprisingly young, 42.6 years.
42.
But what really jumped out at me was the range. It wasn't just women on the cusp of 50. The diagnosis range went all the way down to age 23.
23. So we're talking about women in their 20s and 30s who have, they have basically zero screening protocols in place for them.
None. Not unless they fit a very specific high-risk profile.
And when you compare how many women under 50 are actually getting screened versus how many cancers are being found,
Yeah.
that gap just becomes impossible to ignore.
And what's fascinating here is the sheer disproportion. Women younger than 50 made up only about 21 to 25% of the total screened population.
So they were the minority in the screening room.
Absolutely, the minority. And yet, year after year after year, they consistently accounted for about 25% of all the breast cancers detected.
So the hit rate, for lack of a better word, is significantly higher in this younger demographic.
That's a great way to put it. They're walking in less frequently, but when they do, they're disproportionately contributing to the overall cancer count.
Exactly.
And, if this were just a spike in 1 or 2 years, you could maybe dismiss it.
Right. An anomaly.
A localized thing, an anomaly. But the researchers made a real point of highlighting the consistency. The number of diagnoses in this younger group stayed remarkably stable across the entire 11-year period.
How stable are we talking?
Well, the number of diagnoses ranged from 145 to 196 each year, so very consistent.
That stability is the key insight here, isn't it? It suggests this high rate, it's not a fluke, it's the unacknowledged baseline.
It absolutely is. Stability implies persistence. When the research manager, Andrea Ariano, and the team looked at this, they knew they were on solid ground. They could say, look, this is a persistent long-term issue that we just need to stop ignoring.
I think Dr. Destunis was quoted on that, wasn't she?
She was. Very strongly. She said, and I'm quoting here, "That means this problem is not going away. It is here to stay and needs to be addressed on a larger scale."
That stable incidence rate is. It's a powerful foundation for this argument. But the case gets even more compelling and honestly more alarming when we shift from frequency to the actual biology of the tumors.
Yes.
It's not just how often it's found, it's what kind of cancer is being found.
Precisely. This is the second major pillar of their argument, the aggressiveness factor, as they called it.
Okay.
The majority of the cases documented in this younger group, 1,451 of them, that's over 80%.
80%.
What were classified as invasive.
80% invasive. I mean, that percentage alone signals a much more serious situation. Because invasive means the tumor cells have what they've broken out.
They've broken through the membrane of the duct or the lobule where they started, so they have the potential to spread to lymph nodes, to other parts of the body.
That's not contained.
It's not contained. And if we connect this to the biology, it often means faster growth, a higher grade, just generally less favorable characteristics than the cancers typically found in older women, which are often slower growing and hormone receptor positive.
You mentioned biological aggressiveness, especially in those under 40. And the source material highlighted triple-negative breast cancer. For anyone listening, can you explain why that specific diagnosis is such a huge red flag?
It's a major red flag, and it's particularly troubling when it shows up disproportionately in younger women. So triple negative means the cancer cells don't have receptors for estrogen, for progesterone, and for the HER2 protein. And most common breast cancers are fueled by those hormones, which is actually a good thing in a way, because we have really effective tools like tamoxifen to basically starve the tumor.
But if they're triple negative?
You lose those targeted, highly successful hormone therapies. Treatment then becomes centered on, well, the bigger guns. Chemotherapy, surgery, radiation.
And these tumors?
Yeah.
They're more dangerous.
They tend to grow and spread more rapidly, and they're more likely to recur within the first 5 years after treatment. So yes, they are inherently more dangerous.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we have is a consistent, stable, and substantial number of cancers in younger women. And when we do find it, it's disproportionately invasive and often features the most aggressive biology, like this triple-negative subtype.
That combination is the core argument for changing the policy. The findings suggest that if we wait for the existing age cutoffs,
The tumors we find are just going to be worse.
they'll be larger, more advanced, and biologically harder to treat. That window of opportunity for early, effective intervention is short.
And the current guidelines are letting that window close.
That's the argument, yes.
Which brings us right to the current U.S. screening guidelines.
Yeah.
Given this data, I mean, those age cutoffs look pretty fragile, don't they?
They absolutely do. And it's complicated because even the major U.S. organizations don't totally agree.
Right.
You have the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, the USPSTF. They recommend a mammogram every other year, starting at age 40.
So for a woman diagnosed at 35 or even at 42, like the average in this study,
Right.
that protocol basically tells them they have years of delayed detection, unless they find something themselves.
Exactly. And then you have the American Cancer Society, the ACS. They advise annual mammograms starting at 45.
A little later.
A little later, though they do offer the option to start between 40 and 44. But either way, both major guidelines are targeting women in their mid to late 40s as the entry point.
And of course, we know that women who are considered high risk, usually because of a genetic mutation like BRCA,
Right, or a very strong family history.
they get much more intensive protocols. Breast MRIs, mammograms, starting around age 30.
And that high-risk definition is critical, but it only captures a tiny fraction of the population.
And this raises a really important question.
Yeah.
What about everyone else?
Exactly. What about the rest? If the average age of diagnosis in this study was 42.6, but the range went down to 23, where are the official protocols for women under 30?
They don't exist.
They don't. Not really. There are virtually no official screening guidelines for women younger than 30 unless they fit that very explicit high-risk genetic profile.
So you have this huge gap. The data shows significant aggressive cancer,
Right.
but the screening protocols are just silent. It forces us to admit that these women, especially those under 40, they can't just be dismissed as low risk by default anymore.
The policy is just not keeping pace with the reality the data is showing us. The researchers concluded, and very forcefully, that we cannot rely on age alone to decide who gets screened. We have to shift the focus
Age category?
to individual risk assessment.
Okay, let's pivot to the practical takeaway, because this is where you, our listener, need to feel empowered. If the universal age cutoffs aren't enough, what's the actionable recommendation here?
The key recommendation from the researchers is that physicians, anyone caring for women in that 18 to 49 age group, they must prioritize performing a comprehensive risk assessment.
So moving away from just a routine checkup.
To a personalized analysis of your future risk factors. It's about shifting the whole paradigm from wait until you're 40 to let's figure out your specific risk profile right now.
This sounds like a really strong push for personalized preventative medicine right there in the primary care office.
It is.
So what should that risk assessment actually look at?
Yeah.
And who are the groups that should be especially diligent about this?
A good risk assessment starts with a deep dive into family history. And not just your mom or your sister, but extended relatives, patterns of any cancer. If there's a strong history or if you have a known genetic mutation, early screening is already standard. But the study also pointed to certain minorities and ethnic backgrounds who should be prioritized for heightened awareness.
And why is that?
Because of known biological predispositions or sometimes just higher incidence rates in those communities.
That inclusion of ethnic backgrounds is so important. Risk isn't always purely genetic, right?
Not at all. It can be demographic, socioeconomic, but regardless of the factors, the whole point of doing this risk assessment earlier is to shift that diagnosis timeline.
To catch it sooner?
Absolutely. The ultimate goal is earlier detection, and that translates directly into better treatment outcomes. When you're dealing with these aggressive, invasive tumors, every single month counts.
And so research like this,
Yeah.
it just supports earlier, more tailored screening.
It does. It supports it so that you can get that earlier detection, which dramatically increases the chances of successful treatment and long-term survival. The message for you listening is clear. Understand your history and advocate for an early risk assessment.
This deep dive has really illustrated a substantial and persistent problem that policy just hasn't caught up with yet. So what does this all mean for the immediate future of women's health?
It means the standard perception of breast cancer risk needs a major overhaul. We've established it's substantial in younger women, it's stable, and it features these disproportionately invasive and aggressive tumors.
It's not rare.
It's not rare. And this demands a definitive shift away from relying on those universal age cutoffs and toward making personal, individualized risk assessment standard practice, and much earlier than we ever thought.
As we close out, I want to go back to one specific detail from the source material that just perfectly captures the dual challenge here.
Okay.
The researchers shared a case of a 40-year-old patient. She presented for a routine screening, and crucially, she was noted to have extremely dense breast tissue on her mammogram.
Yes, and that case illustrates the perfect storm of challenges in this younger group.
Yes.
Well, younger women often have denser breast tissue, and dense tissue appears white on a mammogram. The problem is, cancer also appears white on a mammogram.
Fluid hides it.
It can create a masking effect, making it incredibly difficult to detect a tumor, especially a small, early-stage one, using mammography by itself.
So here you have a patient who is, right at the cutoff age for screening, but her own biology, her breast density, makes that screening potentially ineffective.
Exactly. And in this case, this 40-year-old patient eventually had a mass identified, but it was through a subsequent breast ultrasound, which is a tool we use to see through that dense tissue.
And it was cancer.
It was. The biopsy confirmed a nuclear grade 1 invasive ductal carcinoma.
Wow.
And this just reinforces why relying solely on standard age-based mammography is so risky for this population. You have dense breast tissue, plus you have aggressive tumor biology that demands a speedy diagnosis.
It's a dangerous combination.
It is, and it means that early, tailored screening, including supplemental tools like ultrasound or MRI, that might be the only way to catch these life-threatening cancers when they are most treatable. And that's a powerful incentive for you to know your density status and to know all your risk factors.